Tánaiste, the European Union is losing 1,000 farms each day, and that's a stark finding is from a recent report from the European Court of Auditors. 1,000 farms per day. I want to raise it today because it brings some additional context to the challenges faced by rural Ireland, apart from the practical rollout of the National Broadband Plan, which I believe will never see the contract signed. In fact, the issue of generational renewal, getting young people to take up farming, has been described as the single greatest threat to agriculture and the fabric of rural Ireland, as we've been privileged to know it. According to the court report, the first problem is the large reduction in the number of farms. In 2005, there were 14.7 million farms in the European Union. The latest available data puts it at approximately 10 million. Almost 5 million farms disappeared. There is no indication that the speed of this trend is slowing down. This was recently confirmed by the Western Development Commission, when it found the number of people working in agriculture in the west of Ireland had decreased by 41% in the past 20 years. Almost half of them, 41%. We know that, you know that, your colleagues and your candidates are finding out on the doorsteps also. What is equally disturbing is the finding that not only has there been a reduction in the number of young farmers, there is also a serious reduction in the amount of land held by the young farmers also. The problem is that 80% of European farmers are over 45 years of age. 1/3 of the farmers are older than 65. The outcome of all this is that the threat to the family farm is growing at an alarming rate. We are now at a point where the largest farms, which make up 20% of farms, received 80% of European subsidies for agriculture, and that the other 80% of farms received only 20% of those subsidies. That's a disgraceful figure. According to the auditors, this is the political choice that faces in deciding the future of the CAP agreement, and we have to face it. Will you, Tánaiste, therefore accept that we are facing an unprecedented threat to the fabric of rural life in terms of the inability to make farming financially attractive to young people and indeed young families? Small farms right across Ireland and this state and indeed Europe are being gobbled up daily by large conglomerates, and it's happening in my own county of South Tipperary with Coolmore's equine industry, gobbled up, not in the interest of farming, but just as a matter of they have no commitment to rural Ireland. They are only interested in bank balances and interested in corporate affairs and our corporate investments, no interest in our schools or our future or our clubs. This was made explicitly clear by the members of the court when they appeared before the Oireachtas Agricultural Committee. They accepted that there was a long discussion on a proposal of the European Commission to cut the payments for the big farms and to give more to the family farms. Finally, however, it was not accepted. That decision was not accepted because the lobby of the big industrial farms was very strong. This is outrageous, Tánaiste. And will you, Tánaiste, provide assurances as to the measures that we are adopting here to combat this trend of family farms vanishing from the face of the earth?
Thanks, Deputy. This is an issue I know a little bit about because I was very much involved in the last discussion of the Common Agricultural Policy and how we would structure both Pillar 1 payments, which are direct payments, and also Pillar 2 payments in terms of supporting more sustainable agricultural activity, but also maintaining and protecting the family farm structure, which is really core to the makeup of rural Ireland. And if we want to talk about investment in rural Ireland in terms of volumes of money, the CAP in this round of the CAP will invest in Ireland €12 billion in terms of supports for food producers and farmers in many different ways. In my view, it represents good value for money for consumers because of the guarantees that it provides in terms of food safety and quality and environmental protections, but also it protects and sustains the fabric of rural Ireland, which you're very much part of, as I have been too. But I think it's important that you don't misrepresent what we tried to do in the last round of the CAP and what I certainly will advocate for in this round too. The idea that everybody who owns land in Ireland would get the same payment per hectare, with no differentiation at all, taking no account of history or productivity in the past or anything like that, would be a fundamental mistake. Because what you would be essentially then paying people for is land ownership and not farming at all. And so I would suggest that you perhaps talk to the farmers in Tipperary, who lobbied incredibly heavily to ensure that I managed what was called the equalisation of funds in a way that was progressive, but in a way that also was gradual, and didn't see dramatic changes in the income of full-time farmers, which is what would have happened if some people had their way, to ensure that actually we keep farming as a productive sector, as opposed to some kind of social engineering project in rural Ireland. Farms and farmers can and are profitable across the country if we can provide the marketplace that allows them to survive and grow and expand. And so the CAP needs to be a combination of things, from protecting food quality and food safety, protecting animal welfare, protecting a broader environment that we all have an obligation to protect, and also to keep productive farming intact, and in parts of the country where it's not possible to make money in the marketplace through farming, to keep people on the land as stewards of the countryside. And it can do all of those things if we ensure that it is appropriately funded in the next round of CAP, which this government will fight for.
Tánaiste, Deputy McGrath.
I don't even make sure about looking after farmers and the farmers, certainly, but I mean, we need your government to pay attention to them. We need your government to look at the likes of Coolmore buying up 27,000 acres and not giving them behest and driving all other family farms out. Thanks for the reply other than that, but ultimately the issues result are political choices for you, Minister, and your party. But you were always the party of the landed gentry, not the small Nadine Bioka or the small farmers. That was made absolutely clear by the auditors who attended the Agricultural Committee. Indeed, it was well said that the core of the problem of European agriculture is that we plan for a common agricultural policy for a 7-year period. I believe it should be a 27-year period. It's too short a time frame, and you need to give more than lip service talking about farmers being profitable. Tell me what sector is profitable at the moment. Dairy, just by the skin of their teeth. All other sectors are slipping hugely, and very volatile with weather conditions, and of course the onset of Brexit and the long, prolonged, protracted negotiations and delays and uncertainty. And what you need is to reassure them, and we need something like a land commission or something else to be brought back to stop corporate conglomerates buying up land just willy-nilly. They can do it because they have tax incentives with the equine and everything else. There must be a level playing field, and support Nadine Bioga, support the small farmer, because without families on the farms, without people in the villages, our schools, our GA clubs, all our sporting clubs, and they're all fled from the land. You can see it. The numbers that are leaving, I gave you the figures, 10,000 farmers across Europe a day leaving. It's a perilous situation, and we need to respond to that.
Thank you very much. Tánaiste to conclude.
I mean, there are issues in what you're raising, and I don't want to dismiss those. I think we need to be careful, though, not to interpret trends in Irish agriculture on the basis of what's happening broadly across the EU. If you look at a lot of the newer member states in the European Union, their starting position when they joined was one of very, very small farm holdings. In many cases with dairy herd sizes of 5 or 6 milking cows. A totally different farming model to what we have here. What we need to focus on is Irish agriculture and its future, how we facilitate the sustainable growth story that currently is happening in the dairy sector, and how we support a beef sector through what has been a very difficult 2-year period, particularly linked to Brexit and the uncertainty of that. It is not a coincidence that my party and this government advocated to get the Agricultural Commissionership for Ireland, because my party and this government prioritises farming and agriculture as an essential part of rural Ireland and of the Irish economy, and we will not be found wanting in terms of supporting agriculture, particularly the beef sector, through this difficult period also.
Thank you very much.